He told me he had a guy's night, but I watched him toast champagne with another woman 3 feet away from me. I had the reservation confirmation in my inbox. I wasn't supposed to. It came by mistake. A shared calendar event he forgot. To make private. Title, La Riviera, 8 p.m. That was our favorite place. The one we went to on our anniversary every year. The one where he once said, "This is where I fell in love with you." Except this time I wasn't invited. He said he was going out with friends, that he needed a night to decompress. I smiled. I said, "Have fun." Then I called the restaurant and asked for the table beside his. Quiet corner, romantic window view. I told them it was a solo dinner, a celebration. They didn't need to know the truth. I dressed carefully. Not flashy, not desperate, just sharp, clean, like the version of me he used to respect. I walked in at 7:58. They were already there. He didn't see me. Not at first. He was too busy pouring her wine, leaning in like she was the center of his universe. The same way he used to lean into me. She was younger, hair curled, laugh high and delicate like she practiced it in a mirror. I didn't hate her. Not then. I hated him. The ease, the comfort, the way he touched her wrist like it was muscle memory, like it wasn't the first time, like it had been happening for a while. I sat down, ordered the same thing I always did. Sea bass, white wine, no starter, no dessert. I didn't need the full performance. I just needed the view. He noticed me. Halfway through the main course, I saw it. The flinch, the panic, the quick scan of his brain trying to come up with a lie fast enough. I raised my glass. Just once. Not a toast. A message. "I see you." His face went pale. She turned to look, confused, smiling, until she realized he wasn't smiling back, until she saw the way he looked like he'd seen a ghost. My ghost. He stood up, half-stepped toward me like he thought I'd cause a scene, but I didn't. I just turned back to my food and took another bite, because this wasn't a confrontation. This was the funeral of a marriage, and I was there to watch it. Die with my eyes open. We met at a friend's engagement party. He was the best man. I was the bride's co-worker. He spilled champagne on my shoes and offered to pay for them. I told him to buy me fries instead. He laughed like I was the first real person he'd met. That night, it was effortless. That's how I always described us in the beginning. Conversations flowed. We finished each other's thoughts. We had inside jokes before we had a real title. He said he'd never believed in the one until I made him doubt that belief. We dated for 3 years before getting married. Wedding was small. Lanterns, jazz trio, people we actually liked. I remember the way he looked at me as I walked down the aisle, like I was something he never thought he deserved. My dad whispered, "He adores you." And I believed that, with everything in me. Marriage was easy at first. We traveled, cooked together, had lazy Sundays and ambitious weeknights. He supported my career, told people I was the smartest woman he'd ever met. I believed that meant loyalty. I thought admiration and faithfulness were the same thing. I know better now. There were no early red flags, no cruel comments, no yelling, just small things, the kind you don't see until they stack. He started working later, traveling more, becoming oddly defensive about his phone. I chalked it up to stress. A new promotion. He said he was tired. I believed him. Again, we stopped touching each other in passing. No more quick kisses. No more grabbing my hand in the car. He still said "love you" out of habit, but it started to sound like punctuation. Something he added at the end of a sentence so I wouldn't notice the rest of it felt empty. I tried. God, I tried. I asked if he was okay, if we were okay. He always answered the same way. "You're overthinking again." Like it was my anxiety talking. Like my gut had turned against me. He made me question myself so subtly that I stopped bringing things up. I blame myself. Maybe I wasn't affectionate enough. Maybe I'd gained weight. Maybe I was too focused on work. I bent myself backward trying to be more loving, more exciting, more patient. But the truth? He didn't want more of me. He wanted someone else entirely. And now I know, I was never the problem. It started with the way he began hiding his screen when I walked into the room. Quick swipes, sudden blackouts. He said it was work stuff, confidential. But he never used to care if I saw his screen. That shift, that tiny shift, started. A spiral in my chest I couldn't explain. Then came the smell. A different cologne. Not his usual one. Lighter, sweeter. One night I leaned in to kiss him and caught it on his collar. He pulled away fast. Said he'd sprayed a tester at a store on his way home. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But something in his voice sounded rehearsed. He stopped asking me about my day. He still talked. Told me about meetings, traffic, the gym, but he didn't ask back. Like conversation was a task, not a connection. I noticed that most when I told him my coworker got engaged, and he barely looked up from his phone. Just said, "Cool." He got more polished. New shoes, new haircut, a gym membership he actually used. Said he wanted to feel better and be healthier. I encouraged him, even though part of me felt left behind. He was becoming someone new, and I wasn't invited. He took more calls in the car. With the door shut, whispering. I asked once who it was, and he said, no one important, but he smiled while talking to no one. Laughed in that way he hadn't laughed with me in months. He started calling me babe again. That confused me, like he was trying to overcompensate, saying the right things, leaving me little notes again, after weeks of distance. At first, I thought we were reconnecting, but I realized later he was covering his tracks, dimming my suspicion with just enough light. One night, he came home late, said he was with Mark and Jason, his two best friends. I smiled, asked how it went. The next morning, I saw Mark at the grocery store and casually said, thanks for keeping him out of trouble last night. He looked confused. Last night? I haven't seen him in weeks. That's when the nausea hit. Still, I waited, watched, gathered tiny pieces, receipts in pockets, unexplained transactions, changes in tone. I started doubting everything, and yet I didn't confront. Not yet. I wanted to be sure. I wanted him to hand me the truth with his own hands. And then it happened. The shared calendar glitch. He forgot to unlink an old Gmail from our synced account. I got the notification. Dinner for 2, La Riviera, 8 p.m. My heart stopped. That was our place. That was our time. But this wasn't our night. He planned it in my face, with no guilt, no effort to hide it. That's when I knew. I sat there, 3 feet away, watching my husband charm another woman like it was second nature. He leaned in close, brushed something from her hair, laughed at something she said with that dimpled smile he used to save for me. And she looked like she believed she was the only woman in the world. It felt like I was watching a movie I wasn't cast in, except the lead role used to be mine. I couldn't taste the food, could barely feel the stem of the wine glass in my hand. My pulse was loud in my ears, but my face, calm, controlled. I watched. I memorized every gesture, every lie he used to sell her the same fantasy he once sold me. She asked him something, and he reached across the table to squeeze her hand. That was when he saw me, mid-sentence. He froze, fork in hand, smile stuck on his face like a glitch. I met his eyes and tilted my head slightly, the way I do when I'm about to catch someone lying. He knew that look. I raised my glass, not in celebration, but in mourning, because something had died. Not love, not trust, but the illusion. He stood up suddenly, nearly knocking over his chair. She looked up, confused, whispered something. He mumbled back. Then he walked toward me, half apology, half fear in his face. He reached my table and said, "This isn't what it looks like." I didn't flinch, just looked up and said, "Then tell me what it is." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked around like someone might save him. No one did. She followed, now standing behind him, arms crossed, realizing the quiet woman next to them wasn't just a stranger. She said, "What's going on?" I turned to her, calm, even. I'm his wife. Her face crumbled, his turned ghostly. I stood, wiped my mouth with the napkin, smoothed my dress, looked at both of them. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." And then I walked out. No yelling, no glass-shattering drama, just the quiet exit of a woman who had seen enough, a woman who no longer needed the truth because she'd just watched it, in real time, undress itself at a candlelit table. He followed me to the parking lot, called my name. I kept walking. He grabbed my arm. That's when I turned. "Don't touch me." I said it low, sharp, deadly. And in that moment, something shifted in him. Maybe for the first time, he saw who I really was. Someone who wouldn't burn everything down, but would walk away and never look back. He tried to speak again. I said nothing. I got in my car, closed the door, and drove away. Not from him, but from the version of me that ever begged to be chosen. I didn't go home that night. I drove past our exit, past the neighborhoods I knew by heart, past the life I'd carefully built around a lie. I checked into a hotel with one bag and no explanation, just silence and the cold realization that I could never go back to pretending. I turned my phone off, not airplane mode, off. No texts, no calls, no fake apologies or manipulative guilt. I let the silence stretch out like a shield. I let it hold me, breathe for me, decide for me when I couldn't trust myself to feel anything but rage and humiliation. The next morning, I woke up early. The first thing I did was call a locksmith, then my lawyer. I had already made a list in my mind during the drive, not of what to do, but of what not to allow anymore. I went back to the house when I knew he'd be at work. I packed slowly, deliberately, not my whole closet, just what I loved, what was mine, what had meaning before him. I didn't touch anything we bought together, let it all rot. I left my wedding ring in the kitchen sink. No note, no explanation, just metal on porcelain, the same cold emptiness he left me with every time he lied. He came home to an empty closet and changed locks. He texted, called, emailed, left voicemails that swung between desperate and furious. "This is insane. Can we talk like adults? You're blowing everything out of proportion." I didn't respond. I didn't even listen. Then came the flowers. The "please forgive me" email with a bulleted list of excuses. He said she meant nothing, said it only happened once. Then, in the same breath, asked for Another chance to prove it meant something real. That's when I knew he still didn't get it. This wasn't about her. It wasn't about sex or dinners or lying. It was about the moment he made me feel invisible, like my love was disposable, like I was a placeholder until something better came along. I blocked everything: his number, his email, his sister, his mother, anyone who tried to play peacemaker. I wasn't interested in peacekeeping. I was interested in peace, real peace, the kind you earn by choosing yourself over history. And I never responded, not once, not because I was weak, but because my silence was the loudest goodbye I could give. I moved into a furnished apartment downtown. Exposed brick, minimalist decor, the kind of place that didn't hold memories. It smelled like new beginnings, paint, wood, and air that hadn't been breathed in by betrayal. I unpacked only the essentials. No photos, no reminders, just space. At first, I barely spoke. Days passed where the only sound in the room was the hum of the fridge and the click of my keyboard. I worked remotely, grateful for the silence. It wasn't lonely, it was mine. I didn't have to explain my mood. I didn't have to smile through tension. I didn't have to pretend. I started journaling again. 3 pages every morning. Stream of consciousness. Pain, anger, confusion, relief. The first few days were messy, more rage than clarity. But eventually, I started writing about the parts of me I missed. The girl who used to dance in the kitchen, the woman who felt sexy just for herself. I went back to therapy, weekly. I told the truth this time. No sugarcoating. No, he's a good person, but, I said, he betrayed me, repeatedly. And I ignored it because I didn't want to start over. My therapist said, starting over isn't failure, it's courage. I got a haircut. It wasn't drastic, but it felt like slicing off weight I didn't need. I bought new sheets, new towels. I started cooking for one, not out of sadness, but out of ritual. I seasoned things how I liked. Poured wine without asking if he wanted some. One night, I walked past La Riviera, the restaurant. I stood across the street for a moment, watching. Another couple toast at the same corner table, and I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I was standing on the outside now, free. Friends came back into my life, slowly, the real ones. They didn't ask too many questions. They just showed up, sent memes, dragged me to brunch, held space. One of them said, "You seem lighter." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. But she was right. I wasn't healed, but I was healing. And healing looks like this: choosing peace over revenge, choosing solitude over begging, choosing truth even when it breaks you. I started to dream again, not about marriage or babies or proving I was good enough, just about freedom, about mornings that felt soft, about building something no one could lie their way into. I wasn't rebuilding the old version of me. I was building someone entirely new. I saw him again at a friend's birthday party. Mutual circles still overlapped, no matter how hard I tried to avoid it. I almost didn't go, but something in me, not revenge, not vanity, just confidence, said, "You don't need to hide anymore." I wore navy, simple, sharp, elegant. No jewelry except for small gold hoops, hair back, eyes clear. I walked into that rooftop bar like a woman who wasn't haunted anymore. He was already there, laughing too loud, performing, surrounded by people pretending not to know what he did. When he saw me, his whole face shifted. That smile, the fake one, dropped like glass. He came over. Of course he did. Like he still thought he had access. He said, "You look good." I sipped my drink. I know. He stood there awkwardly, shifting weight between his feet. Said something about how he hoped I was doing okay. I let the silence stretch, then said, "I'm doing better than okay." He tried to laugh, that nervous kind. Then, "I've thought about reaching out." I nodded once, calm. "And I've thought about blocking you harder." The people around us watched, not obviously, but you could feel it. Like everyone wanted to know if I'd explode, cry, cause a scene, but I didn't. I just looked at him and said the thing that finally shut him up. "You lied to me so well. I almost forgot how honest I used to be." His face dropped. That was the real moment. Not when I found out, not when I left. But this, when he realized I didn't hate him. I just didn't care. She wasn't there. The woman from the restaurant. I don't know if they lasted. I didn't ask. I didn't need to know. Because that night, I didn't go home and replay the moment. I didn't cry in the shower. I didn't question if I'd said too much or too little. I went home. I read a book. I lit a candle. I slept deeply. Without dreams. Without regret. That was the real win. There was a time I would have done anything to keep him. I would have forgiven the lies, explained away the distance, convinced myself that infidelity was just a symptom of stress. I would have begged, performed, bent until I broke, just to be chosen again. That time is gone. Now, I don't beg for love that should have been mine without asking. I don't justify betrayal because someone wasn't feeling seen. I don't shrink myself to fit the version of me that made his life easier to lie to. He didn't just cheat. He curated a double life, a romantic narrative in one corner, and a loyal wife in another. And he thought he was clever, thought I'd never notice, thought I'd go quiet when the truth unfolded. Instead, I booked a table. I sat beside the betrayal, I stared it in the face and didn't blink, because closure doesn't always come with apologies or explanations. Sometimes it comes with stillness, with walking away, with rebuilding alone and realizing it was never loneliness. It was liberation. I don't miss him. I don't even miss who I thought he was, because I no longer define love by who stays. Define it by who never had to lie to keep me. He ordered dessert with her, but I served the ending.